Yeah, I didn't love this. I was kind of bored. I'm a little bored. Like some parts were interesting to me, but generally
Just
it
bored.
was, yeah. I always know how invested I am with one of the Real Housewives seasons based on how much time I spend on my phone while the episode is playing.
Ah,
And I felt like, and I did, okay, so I did better this time. I took notes of their names.
okay.
So I will know who I'm talking about and who you are talking about. And then I made a couple points that I thought were interesting, and then it sort of trailed off.
Reality bites. They're not what you want, but what you need.
Well, where do you want to start? Do you want to go
So,
through the episode?
yeah, did you, I guess, what were some points that really sort of stuck out to you?
I keep trying to like somebody, and it's not going to happen, I don't think. But maybe like I was trying to like Heather for a minute. Um,
Yeah, we like Whitney,
Whitney.
the woman, Heather's cousin, right, that had the affair and left the church.
Oh no, I mean like I don't think so. I'll like her if she comes on the show. I'll be very very kind to her.
I feel like Heather is the underdog. Like I feel like Whitney is supposed to look like the underdog because she was booted
Hmm,
out of the Mormon church because she had an affair with her boss or whatever. And so and her dad struggles with addiction. And so I feel like she was
that's
like
right.
in the latest episode is when she said, "Lisa, I feel like you're judging me." And I feel like there's, based on her storyline, it maybe looks like she's kind of the underdog, but I don't know. I feel like Heather is the underdog. Like
Yeah,
she she kind of screams, I want to be sitting at this table, but I don't belong at this table. Like that's I feel like every interaction she has, but I think she's more relatable in a way to some of the others.
yes.
Um, and she has a sort of similar, like maybe is she the Greek chorus of the group? Like I don't know, maybe. Who is? There has to be one. There has to be one that's closer to that.
I think you are right because because the snub in the last episode that was toward her, right? The I didn't
Yeah,
know her that well. How
yeah,
interesting. But it is interesting to think of her as being one of the most real when she runs the plastic surgery shop.
yeah, yeah. I
But who cares? I'm being so judgy about that. Who cares? Good
yeah.
for her.
Oh yeah. I think so. Like who was it that had okay? Meredith is that separated from her husband, and they
Which I
had.
didn't remember them saying. He's
I don't
working
think
in Chicago, but I didn't feel like they talked about it as if they were separated, but then they
yeah.
did.
I don't think that they did the first episode, and then they did. Well, I mean, unless I missed it, they did the second episode.
So she's like, let's have a good time and drink, or did you want to talk about something? And he was like, I want to talk about how we're secretly getting divorced and you haven't told any of your friends. And she was not having it.
And then they had that weird, awkward conversation where he was like, "Let me look at your phone. You won't look at my phone." And he was like, "Here, take my phone." She's like, "I don't want to look at your phone." He's like, "I want you to want to look at my phone," or something. I mean, like that was like the vibe.
Because then
Then
I would know you cared.
yeah, yeah, and that was, I don't know, but I kind of felt bad for him, and that like poor guy. He just wants her to want to have to look through his phone to care about.
He did. He was like, why aren't we? No. And now they're
Yeah,
separated. Now, well, I don't know what your thoughts on that are. I don't think that you have to be able to look through your person's phone or like that's an important thing. But it was an interesting maybe difference because I think that there are couples who they're just like, we just want that to be the thing. And there's other who are sort of like, why would we do that? We should be able to have private conversations with our friends and like that kind of thing.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, everyone's different on that. I definitely think you deserve to have your privacy, but it's but I also can appreciate what he was saying in that I just want you to, I don't know, show that you maybe would be worried. Like it was like some, I don't know. I kind of I just felt I felt for him during it, but I still think like it's, a lot of people would appreciate where Meredith was coming from. Like, I don't need to do that, and I don't want to. So
Yeah. And we don't know the whole story about why she might feel that way. So in marriage counseling terms, I would call that he was making bids for connection and she was shutting it down.
uh-huh.
But I think because she was uncomfortable how to navigate that, but I don't know.
I feel like that the argument that they had, or the discussion that they had, anytime couples talk like that, it makes me think that she might have been unfaithful or like flirted with the like
The
opportunity.
bartenders.
Yeah, and because I feel like that, like there was some jealousy there, I thought, from him, right? Like, did you feel
Yeah.
like that comes from that place, like that reaction?
Well, maybe. I mean, because he did say, "I think you're keeping something from me," and to me, the most obvious thing would be something like that. But I don't know. I don't know. I'm not sure. I wasn't sure if I was reading it that way or not. It did feel like she wouldn't be comfortable with him just looking through her phone.
Yeah.
But it could have been because, like, I know like a lot of people will get together and talk crap about their spouse with their friends, and that's like a thing they do to connect to their friends. And I don't approve of that. I don't think that's like a good idea, but I think it's pretty common probably, right? Like there's probably a whole subset of people who that's like their shtick, is they get together with their same gender friends and talk trash about their spouse.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
Who knows?
Mm-hmm. To be continued. Yeah, and so that I don't know. I thought that was interesting, but also not interesting.
What?
So there's one thing that I will give you a little backstory. Some of the other housewives, and I will say other reality shows on Bravo, something new that has happened that really didn't happen for many, many years, is the idea that some drama will start when someone says something on camera and they point it out, and it sort of, they bring attention to, obviously this isn't reality exactly, you are choosing to say something now that we're filming, or like there will be two housewives that say you only talk to me or ask to do something when the cameras are around, or why did you bring that up when the cameras were around, and then that becomes a point of contention and a dramatic point, I guess, in the season that will be often referred back to, blah blah blah. But so the before, it was, I feel like they all just pretended like there were no cameras and no one brought up the fact that there were cameras. And so everyone knows they're being filmed. They must have these moments where they are sort of cultivating this image. Like it is like the ultimate social media experiment, where this is like you are portraying yourself in some way, projecting it out to the world. Everyone's going to watch it and be all up in your business. And you can't, strategically create a caption to make your life look pretty, but they all try to make their lives look pretty. And then there's always, so and so is bankrupt, or they owe X amount for taxes, probably because they're trying to spend so much to look wealthy on the housewives. And this has happened for like a decade, where like multiple cities, different women, where this has happened. And so I think about the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, which I kind of think that I wish the Real Housewives of Utah would be cool, but the Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, they must, just like all of the other housewives, strategically think about like how will this look. So like Mary was late from her for skiing or whatever because she was waiting for the FedEx package for her ski outfit, and that there's a reason. Like she was probably sitting there thinking like, I am not going on camera and skiing on the bunny slope unless I am looking fly. Okay. And a couple points that I thought were interesting. Whitney bringing up to Lisa, who they own the tequila brand,
Mm,
I find Lisa to be very aggressive,
mm.
and she is a sort of, I don't know, a very, if I had to describe her, a very stern uh pageant person.
Ah,
So like she's like like she looks every time she's on camera like she should be on stage at some pageant, and the feedback she would get is, "Soft, you need to soften, soften." But I find Lisa to be very aggressive. She's the one who gifted Whitney all the tequila, and then the two bartenders that drank too much and I guess smashed some glasses, and then she took no ownership of that, and then was very upset by the whole thing. And I thought, well, I mean, I don't know. I think that's valid. If you give me a bunch of tequila and then two bartenders and the bartenders go crazy, like I I feel like I should probably tell you, like at least don't hire them again.
right. Yeah, I should probably bring this up to you.
I don't know. I think, and she was very upset. But I did like that her husband was like, "Do you want advice or do you want me to listen?" I was like,
And she's like, I just want to talk.
"That's
And
yeah.
then she goes on to say how generous she was. I'm so generous. And he's like, you're so generous, babe. So I do think that there's that part of Lisa trying to be perfect, which I think they called out. It seems like she's very bad at conflict. And they don't show enough of it, but I can't tell. I'm not on Team Whitney or anything, but for Whitney to sort of like, if she was being on, here's the thing, I don't trust anybody now, but if she was being honest and she went to Lisa and was like, just so you know, those bartenders you hired got sloppy drunk and you shouldn't hire them anymore, and that really was her intent, like, oh my gosh, I want to let you know that would make sense to me. And Lisa's weird reaction was weird.
She's very angry and very upset by that. Although I will say that in watching that scene, I thought Whitney was maybe could have brought the conversation back to the bartenders a little bit more. I don't remember why I don't remember the specifics, but I remember thinking like she's kind of drifting away from what I think is important to hone in on, that the bartenders were having a good time,
Yeah.
and you should know. And so maybe it wasn't coming from a place of, you know, a lack of gratitude for the tequila, but just kind of.
There was a weird moment when they were arguing over how much she sent and how fast it ran out, and I was like, what is happening?
As I was like, that's not the point that you should probably emphasize. I think that I would probably get mad at from like,
Yeah.
like I understand like Lisa's point there, but I do think like that's not great. So the
Yeah.
bar.
Yeah. So yeah, my takeaway from that would be like, if there's something to learn from that, it would be, maybe start off approaching somebody about that with sort of like, thank you so much for doing that. I just want to let you know.
This happened.
Yeah. When I look at my first impressions of her, I wrote sweater on dog. So she must have put her sweater on a dog. And
Yes.
also, no, so she's from New York, Jewish by heritage, Mormon by choice, but wasn't born into any religion. So I think that's just fascinating to think of, sort of like a person who from New York City converts to Mormonism, but still opens a like tequila brand store and like does all that stuff. It's so interesting. Like, what draws her to Mormonism, I wonder.
I also wonder that. I wondered that in the last sort of scene where they were at the table dinner, they were having dinner or something. That's when Whitney confronted Lisa and said, "I think you judged me." But they began talking about Whitney's dad, who struggled with addiction, and how, he felt that was received by the Mormon church. And then Lisa commented, and I thought in that moment, I wonder what draws you. Like I'm kind of curious about that. She sort of differentiated between the gospel and the cultural aspects of Mormonism. I think it was the idea that you're supposed to love people and not judge others and support others. And then when he was saying that, whether it was about her or her dad, that's not what we're met with. And she said, well, that's the difference between the gospel and the culture. And when he said, that's just Utah.
I mean, that is interesting, right? Because I think she's probably, I totally believe that experience of being like either low key or high key dismissed or kind of marginalized if you're not really like fitting in, or if you're struggling with addiction or something like that. Like, it's not, my experience has not been that people who are sort of actively struggling are in church. Or at least not that I know of. Obviously I can't tell, but like you just, it's just sort of like not there, not talked about. And there's a very common saying in the church, which is the people are imperfect, but the church is perfect. They'll use the word perfect. Yeah. Or they'll say something like, God is perfect, but people aren't perfect, or something like that. But very common to be spoken and heard, I think, in Mormon culture, is that the church is perfect, the people are not.
Huh. Interesting.
So yeah, that was interesting that and I feel like I'm hearing her try to say that too, by saying there's a difference between the gospel and culture, and maybe she's saying the gospel is true, or still valid, even though the people might suck.
Yeah, that could be. Yeah, I think that makes sense.
But really what was great was Meredith sort of subtly trying to defend Lisa to people throughout, the episode in subtle ways. I know her, she comes from a good place. I think she can be this. She's her friend. And I thought Meredith honestly handled it pretty diplomatically. And then at the table, when Lisa's getting all aggressive, Meredith's just like watching her go down in flames. She's like trying to be her friend, but doing it to herself. Airing of the grievances was good.
Yes. Well, there was a moment in that conversation, and that Lisa you could tell she was very upset. And then I think Mary was like, let her talk. And you could see she was trying to regain control, and she smiled, and it was the most forced smile. And that's what I was referring to with the pageant thing. So she kind of reminded me of the
well, she did, because her whole response was like, I'm over this, you're over it, I've apologized, that's it. She's sort of like, I've done the steps without, it's sort of like,
we're good.
I don't know if you know what an apology is, but checking it off the list. Yeah. Let's see, what else? So Heather talked about skiing, and I was curious as I was watching, do you ski? Have you skied?
Me? No.
Yes, being from Florida.
I went snowboarding once. Because my aunt lives in Colorado.
Oh, cool.
And so when I was in middle school, my cousin and I went to go visit her, and she got us a surprise snowboarding lessons. My cousin is also from Colorado, so she knew how to ski. So I think my aunt thought it'd be something that like both of us would learn how to do. But because my cousin knew how to ski, even though they're very different, she just picked it up. But I also do not like, any kind of skiing or snowboarding that's the opposite of my, it is incongruent with my personality.
Is it the rushing downhill at fast speeds, or?
You can't stop. I am like adrenaline phobic. I don't need that in my life. And I was on the bunny slope, and I think I fell backwards and I hurt my neck. And I was like, oh no, never again. I was in 8th grade. I was like, I'm not doing this again. I think my aunt was very disappointed that I wouldn't do it. It was too scary for me. I think too, so when we went up on the ski lift, we had the snowboards attached to our feet. I didn't realize like the ski lift just actually keeps moving. And you just hop off. And I got up there and panicked. I was like, I can't hop off. I don't know how to use this. And I, of course, hopped off and then fell on my face. And some nice young man like helped me up, and which sounds like what?
Well, the lift is just still coming behind you.
It was terrifying. And the whole thing was not my jam. What about you?
Wait, so this young man who helped you up, was that a romance story?
I was going to say, it sounds like it it should, but my shame kept that from happening.
Excuse me. Well, so yeah, I was thinking about that. So the thing that I thought of when she said that was, there's an example of economic privilege. You got to ski. If you're not skiing and you live in Utah, you're missing out. And I'm like, yeah, yeah, it sucks. But skiing is very, very expensive. And I have skied a little. We had a middle school program that took us out of class once a week for like
Really?
several weeks and bust us up to Brighton, and we started with the bunny slope, and then we graduated to, I think I've done like a blue square before on skis though. I've been snowboarding twice and it was much harder.
See, I should have started skiing because at least you can kind of slow yourself down, right? Like the way you angle.
Yeah, you wedge and just kind of snowplow. I think it's called actually wedge or snowplow. I don't know.
I should have done that.
Avid.
Do you like skiing?
I do. I love skiing. I think snowboarding is great, and I don't think it's a skill I'll ever, especially not at this age. When I fall down, I hurt for a year. But skiing really is fun because I feel you have a lot of control to stop. You can go across the mountain, go slow. If you're on those green circles, I find it very relaxing. It's a good time.
Yeah, I will probably never do that in my life. I just,
Yeah.
at this point, yeah, I'm not gonna do it.
I probably won't go much either. My partner is afraid of the cold. I think she might be allergic. Gives her body shakes.
It's fair. Good reason.
But I was laughing that some of them, just, the level to which they dressed up. And of course, on a television show and like whatever, but to show up and then they can't ski. So the people who do know how to ski are sort of like, okay, we're going to hang out at the bottom of the bunny slope.
Yes. Yeah. I think that a stereotype is that polygamy is everywhere within the Mormon church, right? Is that? I'm asking. Sorry, that's not a direct.
I mean, it's not. I don't know. Because I grew up in Utah, everybody knew it wasn't. But I think that people who grow up outside of Utah, some will have the experience of being asked all the time things like, "Do you have more than one mom?" and stuff like that.
I think that there are people out there that don't know anything about the Mormon culture, and then that's what they Mormonism equals polygamy. Yeah. Like I think that I asked my husband, who knows nothing about the Mormon faith or anything, and so I said, if I said, the polygamy is something that people that are unfamiliar with Mormons might associate with Mormons, what would you say? And he was like, yeah, I think I've heard that. And then that's all I said. But then I guess she said that there's a swinger population in Salt Lake City, which I was fascinated about. That also I want to know more about for sure.
Well, it is funny because I would not equate the two. I think I don't know. Someone should study, but if I were to guess, I would not guess that there's a larger swinger population per capita in Utah than there are in other places, is my guess. My guess is it's not sort of like Mormons flocking to swinging. And I'm not sure that I associate it with polygamy. Like, I think it's funny to say like, oh, polygamy means people have more than one partner. And now there's this swingers rumor, but I'm not sure I equate the two at all.
I wouldn't equate the two. And I mean, I don't even think it really makes sense. They're different. And,
yeah.
But it was interesting. I've just never heard, I've never heard of that. I was like,
So do you think Whitney is a swinger?
I don't know. I was kind of interested by her response, but maybe, I don't know.
I think it's funny.
So
what's that?
There's a stripper pole in her house, so who knows?
No, that's a good point. I know she's like, I know about these vicious rumors, but she's got that stripper pole. I'm just kidding. That has nothing to do with it, right? I actually don't think she's a swinger because she can't even pronounce swinger. She says swinger. She says it like she's saying it for the first time.
So she's not.
So I don't believe it.
So we lived in Atlanta off and on, we moved kind of all over the place. But so when I was in first grade, we lived in Atlanta for just 1 year before we moved back to Florida. And we lived in this neighborhood that was a nice neighborhood. But recently, my dad told me that he mentioned to someone, because he lives in Atlanta, he mentioned to a coworker or someone that we used to live in this neighborhood, and the person responded by saying, "Oh, that's the swinger neighborhood." My dad was going, and oh yeah, it's known for, like, a lot of swingers live in that neighborhood.
Wow.
Isn't that strange? My dad, I have no, didn't know that.
Property values were very low or high. I don't know. I don't know actually how that would affect them. How interesting.
Very interesting.
I would say that of the two people that I know, or two couples or whatever, two entities that I know personally who, I don't know if they would say they're swingers, but engage in some kind of extramarital sexual activity. One is a former Mormon, so I don't know if that says some things.
Interesting.
Yeah, I guess we'll put a shout out there. If you belong to the swinger population in Salt Lake City, contact us, and we'd love to
We have questions.
Have you on the show. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm curious. All right, Hans.
Well, good to talk to you.
All right.
See you.
Bye.
Reality bites. They're not what you want, but what you need.